clothing company and a clothing brand and a lifestyle apparel brand has to meet a criteria. It can't just be your name put on a few different colored shirts and sent out to the people that like watching you chase a rooster around your backyard when you play the kazoo on TikTok. And God bless you if you do that. And you're making a lot of money doing it. But you don't have a clothing brand. You have a merchandise line. So I take that seriously. You know, I take that stuff very, very seriously.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys on.
Thanks.
Mikey, Brian, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, why don't you just start talking about who you guys are, what you're working on together, and your stories.
Brian, you want to go?
You want me to go?
Yeah. You're the pro.
All right. You're going to be waiting for a while.
Yeah,
when I
it's
started.
Oh, okay.
So I'm Brian Anthony Peluso. I'm born, bred, and branded here in Boston. Grew up in Revere, Massachusetts. Spent most of my time, kid in the 70s and 80s, playing sports, doing chores, and believe it or not, drawing. So I lived about a mile from Revere Beach, and I take my bike down the beach in the morning when the sand was wet with a half of a Titan hockey stick, and I draw these enormous pictures in the sand. Bruins logo, Jerry Cheevers, Yogi Bear, whatever. So there's a ton of people that hang out down the beach, old people, in the morning, and they'd all come down. What's this kid drawing today? And they all got to know me. So I always had this huge affinity for visual communications, for being able to tell a story through my pictures. Growing up, grew up very poor. So we didn't buy bikes or get them for Christmas. We found abandoned trash frames and we made bikes. So I would had some model paint, and I would start lettering them, making a Mongoose or a Diamondback or a Fuji, these expensive bikes back in the day. And I'd be cruising around the projects and people like, give me that Mongoose. And no, this is a Huffy. Look close. I just made it into a Mongoose. So I'd have all these old kids from the neighborhood coming knocking at the door with a bike frame. I'd say it's $2 for the paint, $10 for the paint job. And I'd go and I'd make these little fake bikes. So I started going into Central Cycle, which is a big bike store, and I'd ask, I'm a little kid, I'm 10, 12 years old, growing up in the city. And I'd ask the guy at this bike store, hey, can I borrow your Mongoose catalog? For what? I said, I'm poor, I don't have money, I'm going to make my bike look like a Mongoose. So this went on for like a year, and then he hired me to work on the bikes in the back, and he'd order me a surplus of catalogs. So anytime he ordered one, he'd order another one for me. And I'll never forget, I must have been like 12, 13 years old. He gave me a 200-piece model paint set with brushes. And that's what I do. I just letter these bikes, and then I started doing T-shirt designs. I'm a little kid. I'm like 12, 13 years old. And I'm doing Ozzy Osbourne cover art, walking down to the screen printer saying, hey, you want to buy this? You want to make T-shirts out of it? So before you knew it, I just started doing this stuff. And that was my little humble beginning into the art world. It goes a lot further than that, but we'll let Mike jump in for a little bit.
Yeah,
we'll revisit some of the entrepreneurial piece of the whole pie.
A lot of these podcasts are like people that like we've known, like I've known or Jack's known. Like we just bring them in, have a conversation, whatever. So like I met you. You're an athlete, football player, currently at Columbia, playing there. You know, growing up playing football, I assume. How did that go?
So yeah, I grew up playing football in middle school, played throughout high school, and like fell in love with the game. Just so when I was a freshman in high school, I actually lost my father, and started lifting weights after that. It was kind of like a relief for me, you know. I would lift weights, try to get my mind off things. Basically, it was like weightlifting became my life, and then I got into football more seriously. And eventually after that, I started picking up some traction my junior year. Senior year, I committed to Columbia to play football. Had a bunch of Ivy League offers, interests. And my father, you know, he always wanted me to go play at like a Ivy League school, good education. Decided to go there. And yeah, now I'm here.
So you're a freshman at Columbia now.
Yeah.
How's it been being there for the past 4 or 5 months?
It's good. It's a lot of work. You know, in college you're solo. You got to get your work done. You got to figure out ways how to get better at your technique on your own. And there's like no one there, you know, holding your hand. You got to figure out how to do it. Yeah, but it's good. You know, it's a learning experience. Definitely an adjustment, but yeah, it's really good. I'm having a good time, having fun.
You just said that there's nobody holding your hand, through the whole process. What's it like, balancing being a Division I athlete plus an Ivy League workload? How difficult was it? What were the most important things you learned throughout your semester there?
Time management is key. When you're being an athlete, you're lifting weights, you're playing football, doing all these drills, practice every day, watching film every day. You got to figure out how to manage your time. You got to manage your time very well. And, Columbia being an Ivy League institution, it's one of the highest, one of the best schools in the world. They give you a lot of work. But, it's worth it. And, figuring out how to, this time I need to do this amount of work, then I got to go get my work, like my lift in, go to practice, then come home and do my work. Like, you have to get your things done, have a regiment for yourself. And I think that's key in being disciplined.
And then has that discipline kind of transitioned into business? Because you're also taking on another side hustle right now, and maybe you can kind of now tell how you and Mike met.
Yeah, so Brian.
Brian,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
So yeah, brothers in iron. So I have two brothers, and like I always, we got very close after losing my father and stuff. And I would just think like we would all lift together, work out together, and it's like we're brothers in iron. And this name came to me. I was driving my car one day, and I'm like, damn, brothers in iron. Like, it sounds really good. I like the name. And I actually spoke to one of my teammates' fathers. His name is Nick Gregory, the Greek he goes by. I'm like, do you know any like designers and people in the industry, veterans in the industry? And he's like, yeah, a close friend of mine, Brian Peluso. He's a huge designer. Has done like many great projects, all these great things in the design world. And I met Brian and brought him the idea.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting. So Nick's like a brother to me. We've been friends forever, and great guy, interesting guy. And, I'll cue it up from a backstory standpoint. So design in the world that I grew up in was very, very holistic. You had to be a craftsman. You had to truly be an artist to create your designs. Computer comes in, opens it up to another tier of people who are creative, but maybe necessarily not the best craftsmen. So you have this influx of people into the industry. Now, rewind to about 6-7 years ago, you have the DIY crowd that can go on Shutterstock and get these, go on Fiverr and get logos. So it's become commoditized. So there's a lot of, and listen, there's cream rises, shit sinks. There's a lot of shit sinking out in the creative world. There's a lot of stuff that's not solid, it's not interesting. It's just pumped out to the masses. So the design world changes. The opportunities kind of minimize a little bit. I still have a very successful design business. I do a lot of big brand stuff, but it changes. They start to tighten their belts a little bit. Now COVID hits. So I had just started another business, my own business. In addition to my design business, I started a retail brand, built the store out, open for 4 months, and COVID hits. So there's a whack, $250,000 whack. Now clients aren't spending money. So I always served on a board, served on a lot of boards, but I was on a board for a vocational school, trying to kind of advise and help them with their design program. So they'd always ask me, you should consider teaching when you get older. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to still keep my business as a consultancy, and I'm going to try teaching. I always wanted to give back, and I just had I turned 50, so you got to go through these appointments. You guys, you got a while to go, but they're so much fun. Wait till I tell you, you're going to fucking love this. It's beautiful. The things they're going to do to you, you're not even going to be able to imagine.
I got in trouble. A lot of cameras involved.
Yeah, my
right?
insurance said you can only go once. We're only going to cover one visit. So I know you. No. So anyway, I go there, and I'm a Sicilian kid, and never got a sunburn.
Thought
in
you
my
were
life.
Irish.
Yeah, yeah. So they're doing everything and looking, and they said, hey, you got this little mole in your back. We're going to send you upstairs to get this thing checked out. Don't worry about it. So there's a dermatology center upstairs. So I go upstairs. Long story short, a couple of weeks ago, they called me I have melanoma. And that's scary shit. That's like end of the line shit. It was very early. They caught it, cut it out of my back. Got rid of a beautiful Jag XK convertible. Got rid of that. I was petrified of the sun. That lasted a couple of years. Now I'm safe and careful. But my point is the ebbs and flows of any business, especially entrepreneurial businesses, you're faced with a lot of stuff, and you're faced with a lot of people, And they always find you when your business is low or when you're not making what you wanted to make last month. A lot of these opportunities come up. Hey, I got a guy, he's so smart, he's got this great idea for this widget, and it's going to be the next best fucking thing. You got to get involved. So now you're looking, all right, how much time am I going to spend? It's a scratch ticket at best, but, you know, necessity gives you convoluted perception of reality. So you look at a lot of these opportunities and say, fuck, I didn't make my nut next month. Yeah, sure, I'll take it on. And before you know it, you're spending all this time, you know, pissing up a rope with this thing that's not going to make sense. So my buddy Nick comes to me, and he knows the situation. He knows where we're at. And he says, one of my friend Nicholas's, his son I love to death. One of my friend Nicholas's best friends, he's the best kid in the world. He has this unbelievable idea for a clothing line. I said, yeah, what do you want me to do? He said, meet him. I said, Nick, a high school kid. Please, I'm busy, and now I'm teaching. I've got my business, and I've been down this road a ton of times. I'm not interested. So he asked me again, can you just meet the guy? You'll like him. So he brings Mikey to my house, and I don't know. We say a lot, iron sharpens iron. That's one of our mantras. That's part of our brand message. That's part of what we feel and what we stand for. But the moment we met, a gentleman, he had a presence, an understated, just little special sauce. And, you know, even when we're talking, he's, you know, a handsome, strong, accomplished, smart athlete. But the humility that he possesses, when you see him trying to grab his words, to me, that's not, what are you doing, man? We're here on a podcast. To me, I'm with the right motherfucker, because he's got humility, he's genuine, and he's not banging a gong. So when he says something, he says it with conviction and purpose. And it resonated with me. And I said, right away, what did I say? I said, yep.
Yeah.
You don't have a business or a brand. You got a name, a great name, Brothers in Iron. And he had made this little shirt. You still have that thing? We're going to have to frame that thing.
I still have it. So I made this shirt out of like this material. I cut it up, put some laces in it. I'm like, I bring it to his house. So I'm at his house. I pull it out of my bag.
I thought it was a pot holder. You know?
I'm like, look, like, we could do something with this. You know, I have this idea, this vision, Brothers in Iron, with these, what do you call it, stitchings?
Cut and stitch.
Cut and stitch, like this material. Me and him talk, and I remember you wearing the pink, the collar.
Fucking never wore pink. What are you talking about?
Not the pink.
It was black, and it had studs and horns on it.
I remember pink. But yeah,
it was actually a pink onesie.
Oh, yeah, it was a onesie.
Yeah, it was a setup.
Why didn't you wear that today?
Yeah, I want to come in slow, you know.
Now, yeah, so like after that we clicked, and it was really good. I mean, and now we're here, and it's been an amazing process, super fun, and we're having a good time doing it. And we're extremely blessed.
What was that, Mikey, for you? You know, was this your first like business venture?
Yeah, this was my first. I mean, I worked with my family, so my family owns like medical clinics that my mom runs now. Corinne, she does. It's called Global Care Medical Group, and I worked with them a little bit on branding, marketing, stuff like that. But this was like my first business that I started with Brian.
So what was it like? Like, how did you know that you needed to find someone else like Brian to partner with?
That's a great question. I mean, I knew, so like me being an athlete and stuff, and not being very experienced in the industry, I thought I needed like a veteran and someone with a creative mind and great ideas such as Brian. And so I went to Nick, and he told me, I got the perfect guy for you. And I saw his work. His work's unbelievable. Everything he touches is extremely thought out process. Everything, attention to detail is unreal. And came to Brian, and he brainstormed a little bit, sent me over few samples, and like I was hooked. It was like you were getting like this adrenaline rush looking at this Brothers in Iron on these designs that he was sending to me, and I was like locked in, and we created a deal together, and now we have this company together.
And then on your side, Brian, what was it that was different about this company, this idea, and Mike, that stood out from the prior decades of opportunities getting presented to you?
That's such a great question, and it's really interesting because some things in life take a long time to marinate, and you might taste it halfway through and be like, this fucking sucks. I put all the wrong shit in there. It's not working. Some things are just instant, and when we had that meeting and we met, Brothers in Iron's a great name. I love it. It means something to me personally. Has all my life. I've always been of that mindset. But it was a name, and you can come up with 100,000 different names. So it was the name in concert with the vessel that delivered it, and it was more of our connection, more of me kind of looking back through that looking glass and remembering having a little notebook that I'd have all my neighbors' phone numbers in, and what day they went food shopping. I'd be waiting on their porch to literally carry their bags in for a quarter, not a nickel. I could lie and say nickel, but that would be disingenuous. But I remember that, and I remember having all of these little things and feeling good about myself and counting my money and going and buying, finally getting to buy a pair of Nikes instead of buying plain white sneakers for $11 and drawing the Nike swoosh on them with a marker, which I did for many years when I was a little kid. So I looked back and I remember that, and I said, here's a kid, and I didn't know too much about you, but my buddy had given me some background. That comes, his father was a doctor, mom's, a doctor as well, and they own this company. They own this, they're successful. He's going to an Ivy League, and put 9 out of 10 people in his position, and they're not fucking doing anything other than counting mommy and daddy's money and wondering how much they have on their card and saying, hey, I appreciate this gold card, but the platinum is a lot prettier and it matches my wallet. That doesn't exist. So that's an anomaly. Somebody that doesn't necessarily need to. You're going to, you're about to embark on an education at Columbia University. Yeah. You're about to play football for an Ivy League team, and you still had, a chamber inside of your being that you wanted to fill up with something that was yours. So I had the utmost respect for that. So I was working on a project over the summer, the movie that launched the last voyage of the Demeter, the Dracula movie. So I did a bunch of promotion, a bunch of stuff for that. While we were meeting, I was working on a bunch of that stuff, and I was busy. And I just remember holding up that pot holder.
Yeah, it was like
it looked like a dog jacket and a blanket. Yeah. Had a big.
I cut it up, put some laces into it, and I'm like trying to show him there. Yeah.
You said leave the design to him.
It was beautiful, but I held it up, and just the fact that he's the big fucking ox sits there and just stitches it. I can just imagine him.
It's like Jay Cutler on the computer.
It just touched me. You know what I mean? So opposed to all the other stuff that, as interesting and as great as it was and is, and I've been blessed. I did Twism with Shaquille O'Neal back in 1996. Ray Bork and I had Stay Mad Sportswear. So I've been around a lot of this stuff for a very long time. But this hit me in the heart. It hit me. I've got a son who's 17 years old. So I kind of understand that group, but I don't see what he brought to the table. And I said to myself, I've taken a lot worse shots. And to be honest, the economics of something like this, I was a chief creative officer of a global agency. I've owned my own agency. I garner a high hourly cost. It's not like going to a kid in college and giving them a Starbucks gift card. So I looked and I said, listen, I don't know what you have from a budget to invest in this, but I'm not trying to be a dick. I don't think you're going to be able to tolerate what it's going to cost me to create this brand. So we talked a little bit, and I agreed that, I said, hey, let's be partners. We'll do it together.
And that's part of you seeing the vision too. That's not you just looking for a cash grab. Exactly. It's like you see what's really behind it and the messaging and the brand. And so that's really cool.
And it's, Wags, it's like what we were talking about, before we set up here is, you're so connected and you guys, your heart's in this, and you know what that means. You can get a project and of course you're going to deliver for your client. You're going to be consistent. You're going to be creative, and you're going to hopefully win their business in the future. But when it's for yourself and when it means something to you, and when, your leisure time is spent being excited about what you can do for this job part of your life, it's a different animal. It feels different. It's built different. And that stuff I truly believe resonates. And it doesn't just have to be from a creative standpoint. It doesn't have to be what garments we're picking and the quality. And that stuff is all essential, and that stuff is already insured. It resonates when you tell the story. I teach design, and what I tell my students is, right now with AI, you can know all of the Adobe suite. You can be, a great navigator of software. You're obsolete. What is never going to be, out of style and out of demand is a storyteller. somebody who listens to something, who's able to understand what it is that's gripping and compelling about that, and is able to convey that message to a broader audience. So, we talk silly. It's a T-shirt. It's not a T-shirt. This is being built as a brand that is much, much more than lifting stuff. It's much more than lifting. It's lifting one another up. It's being there for somebody. It's being that phone call. It's being that call that, they make when they need something. When we talked about this and when we started to kind of sift the soil and figure out what we wanted this to be, the word that kept popping up time and time again is a movement. And it's not cliche when you think about it. When you think about the longevity, and that's why I think the beauty of this connection just speaks to what the brand is. I mean, I'm going to be 56 in a few days. I'll wait for y'all to say no fucking way. But anyway, I'm going to be 56. I've been around for a while. He's just starting out. But being cut from the same cloth, no pun intended, and the same type of a person transcends 3 decades. And you can still have conversations that are meaningful. And you can still be pliable at my age and listen to what somebody who's not quite yet experienced what I've experienced has to say and respect where they're coming from. Because they're coming from a whole new world. This is a whole new world. I've been in marketing, media, advertising for 30 years. This is new. And when I see the numbers generated by this type of stuff, I'd be a liar if I said I don't scratch my head and say, how are some of these people making money? I've got great penmanship. That's like me 20 years ago saying, email you, fuck you. I got this stationery. I'm going to dip my quill pen and I'm going to write you this beautiful letter. I'll send it over in 3 weeks. You'll get it. You'll know what I'm talking about. You have to adapt and you have to be able to recognize something that's working and something that has promise and potential in something that you're not really comfortable and versed in. So that's another appeal to this thing is we've got a lot of bases covered.
I have a question for you on that too. Like there's a lot of techniques, like penmanship is like a great example of something that has been around forever, has evolved, like especially like with this country and with language, like through not even just like centuries old, right? And then there's this technology now that kind of erases the progress that's made. Where does like old techniques of art and like craftsmanship and creative techniques, like where do you see those going and like having a place in our society?
So I think some of the best stuff that you see created by somebody who has an understanding of the disciplines and elements and principles that went into composing these painstakingly crafted pieces. Like, you look at the Declaration of Independence, you look at some of these documents that you're talking about, right? Imagine just how much went into that. Just from procuring the stock that they wrote it on, to the ink, to dipping it, and all this shit. There's so much invested in that. Okay, as painstaking a process as it was, it gave birth to pride of ownership. You just fucking sat there and etched this thing in.
So not everyone could do that either.
So today, the people that create the best, most visually stimulating and engaging artwork and advertisements and content, they have that old soul spirit. They recognize things that a lot of people don't recognize around them. It just doesn't happen by chance. So in society, I see, look at now. I've Mikey's been to my house many times. I have a historic house. I own one of General Putnam, the Battle of Bunker Hill's old farmhouses, and I redid everything inside of it. I do a lot of environmental design. So I do a lot of nightclubs and a lot of residences. I do very different stuff. So I have a rustic soul, a rustic spirit. So I've been doing, rustic stuff for years and years. The last 10 years, you see barn board everywhere. You see this rustic, luxe, industrial kind of fusion happening. Whereas in the 1980s or 70s, or even 90s, if you tried to, if someone come over my house and saw the way it's good, they say, "Oh my God, this poor bastard! He can't even put any sheetrock up. He's got exposed boards everywhere." So there's a Renaissance spirit that exists in society where everything comes full circle. So I see the stuff that you're talking about. I think a lot of young designers and older designers alike are just scared shitless of this AI stuff. If for anyone to be able to go on and type in a few words and have something produced, holy shit. But what I tell my students and contemporaries is the people you're going to lose, you never had anyway. Because I don't know about you guys, if I'm scrolling through Instagram and there's an ad for something and I hear that narrative, that's that AI guy, you've got me for 5 words and I don't give a shit what you're selling, I'm gone. So it's starting to become so saturated and so apparent. When you look at something that's generated that way, it's produced, it's manufactured. It has no spirit, it has no soul. There's not that connection that we talk about when someone scripted and crafted out the Declaration of Independence. So there's no connectivity to the content. So people are going to start to see that. Consumers are very, very smart, and they'll get it. Like the Reebok pump, that didn't last very long.
I remember those. I used to wear those all the time, actually.
They're great. They made you jump a lot higher.
Too, like
right?
The ones with the zigzags.
Exactly.
But so I was going to kind of ask, how can somebody who's, an established professional who takes pride in their craftsmanship, how can they kind of like parlay these new age technologies like AI to kind of stay ahead of the curve, to stay competitive, while also kind of, staying in touch with their craft?
Absolutely. So you have to be conscious of your crowd and your content. So what am I trying to say and who am I trying to say it to? If I'm trying to get a bunch of people to come to an event that's a beach party that's, turn and burn, hey, it's next weekend, I'm not giving you a shitload of time to plan for this, but my brand is the sponsor at this event, I can go down and dirty because the vertical that I'm dispersing it in. If I'm going to do an elegant thing that's going to be at the Four Seasons, that I'm having, the best watch guys in Boston at one table and I'm having someone hand roll cigars at the other, and we've got, craft whiskey over here, I'm going to take my time and make sure that I compose this message and the visuals that accompany that message with purpose and use elements that's going to appeal to my marketplace. Marketplace 2 is going to see through that AI shit, and they're going to say, well, this is what you give me. So the event's going to be slapped together and generic, because that's what this AI stuff really is. And you're gonna see it down the line. I'm not saying it doesn't serve a purpose. Yeah, it's new now,
so it's exciting and everything.
Exactly.
Well, the other thing is the ownership of like AI pulls design from artists at the end of the day, and like there's intellectual property there in the designs that are somewhat new that the AI will make, but they're pulling it from somewhere, and that has to come back to the artist. So that's a big problem that people have kind of started to talk about in that space.
Well, the other thing is replication. So you own a car dealership in Providence, Rhode Island. I own one in Danvers, Massachusetts. We just so happen to put in the same criteria, and before you know it, we got the same brand. So there's going to be a lot of potential copyright stuff that goes on. And how can you copyright that? So if I create something AI and it's comprised of 5 different author's work, how am I copyrighting that? I don't own that. So it's a little convoluted for me to get involved in, and I still do my stuff. That's like telling, one of the great chefs in the North End over here, hey, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to just don't. It's in the frozen food section, but it tastes so good. It's unbelievable. Just heat it up.
Ask ChatGPT
serve
for a chicken farm recipe.
Serve this out. They won't know. Came fast.
That won't go too well.
Nah.
Mike, what was it look like the first time you got your hands on one of these garments, samples? Just how'd that feel?
So like I came back from school, and old bull Brian Peluso, he had a box waiting for me, and I get to the box. I'm like super excited because this is like the gear. This is it. Open it up, take it out, and I'm like basically like tearing up inside. I'm like, damn, this is real now. This is like unreal. And I'm like, it was like being a kid on Christmas. It was like, it felt like that. It was like emotional, sentimental, and I was really happy. It was one of the best feelings in the world. I mean, Brian was there, and
it was. So I had taken him to meet a buddy of mine who I do a lot of business with, and we're gonna procure. He does a thing. He has a think tank, so a business incubator. So we're gonna grab space there, and we're gonna do a little setup. Not retail for now, but we're just gonna have our office in there, and we're gonna do a podcast out of there. We're gonna do a Brothers in Iron podcast. So I took him in to meet Jay, and Jay loved Mikey, and I had the box. And so another funny thing is, as I was creating this stuff, and a lot of clients are always like, well, can I see it as you go on? Can I see it? Can I see it? We're going to talk. You're going to tell me what you're looking for. We're going to have a couple of conversations. I'm going to show you a series of preliminary work, and then I'm going to get to work, and I'm going to come back to you with the finished product. You don't keep, again, with the North End metaphor. You don't keep walking back and forth in the kitchen saying, "Smells good. Can I see what it's? Is the cheese melting now?" So I'm very, very opposed to clients who want to operate that way, and Mikey didn't. But conversely, everything I was putting together, I'm sending him.
Yeah.
I never sent somebody so much stuff.
I fully trusted him, like, because when I saw his work, like the original pieces of Brothers in Iron, I'm like, damn, this is amazing work. So I didn't want to toy with the creative mind. I mean, of course, I sent you a few ideas of designs or whatever, and you put your sprinkle. And I didn't want to, like, you know what I mean? So, like, when you were sending me the stuff, it was all great stuff. So I was just taking it. I didn't want to put any pressure or whatever.
Yeah, but it was just cool to, like, want to. It was immediately, like, a mutually respectful, like, I wanted him to see it, I wanted him to see it. So back to the box. So he comes in, and we go to see my buddy Jay, and I take the box, and after we met and talked to Jay a little bit, I give him the box. And just watching him, and as a dad, I have a daughter, Lily, 21 years old, and I have a son, Luca, who's 17. So, you know, I grew up very, very no father, just a very rough upbringing. So watching life through my children's eyes, like, I never went to Disney, you know, and then when I got to the point where I could afford to go, I said, I'm not going to go until I have kids. I'm going to experience that with them the first time. So watching and living life through my kids' eyes has been one of the biggest blessings that I've ever had. So watching him view this vision of ours, you know, and this seed that he planted, come to life piece by piece out of the box was just amazing. It was truly the best. Yeah. We're ringing up some great moments in this brand so far, but that was the best thing for me because, you know, just like teaching, you know, I've been fortunate, made a lot of big paychecks in my life. None of them ever made me cry. When I don't get them, sometimes I cry. But teaching a kid and having that kid write me a letter and saying, you know, you changed the trajectory of where I thought my life was going, and you know, I've driven home many times, you know, choked up and in tears, and bless you, and the payment that gives. And that's why I love being an artist, and that's what I tell young artists is, you know, it's a tough road to travel right now, but you get paid twice. You get paid by your client for executing what they need executed. But when you see your stuff on a shelf or in a person or in a bus going by or in a store, you just get paid with such gratitude that, you know, you're the author of something that didn't exist. Not just the solution, but the elements that create the solution. So seeing that through his eyes and seeing that just really come to life. And listen, you guys are doing a startup business. You know, you have your ebbs and flows. You have your great days where, you know, this is awesome, we're running. Then you have your days when you're just like, what are we doing? You know, so you're going to have those pitfalls. But strength, belief, conviction, and connection to what you're doing is paramount. And then confidence, security, and an affinity for the people that you're doing it with. That's the 1-2 punch, you know, and that's like when I was talking to you guys, why I was so impressed with what you're doing is that, you know, that stands out. You don't have to put a table talker on that says we have a 1-2 punch because I like him and he likes me and we bought it. No, that stuff just comes out naturally, you know. So
I was gonna add, like Brian said, like you get paid twice, and you were talking about the letter an artist will receive or a teacher. I mean, this whole thing, Brothers in Iron, it's not just clothes you put on your shelf, you wear to the gym. It's like going to be a movement. It is a movement of like-minded people, a society of strength and standards, as we have on our shirts, of brothers, like, you know, male or female, but brothers, people that take care of each other, that you have your back, they have each other's back. And I think it's very important for people to take care of each other and hold each other accountable. And this Brothers in Iron movement, we kind of try to encapsulate that, and that's part of our culture as this brand, to promote, you know, well-being and healthy lifestyle, healthy mindset, healthy relationships. And it's this whole Brothers in Iron thing, you know, that is going to transcend time, age, everything, you know.
What does that look like, you know, building it sounds like a community too, like is important to you guys. Obviously you're launching down the line in the next couple of months, right?
Yeah, we'll probably within the next month we'll have the site and the online store up. And
But the pillars of that launch and like the pillars of the business that you want to develop, Where's your head's at, in terms of that and building and long-term vision for this?
So I'm a big process guy. So I think, having the urge to do something is one thing, taking that urge and creating a plan, writing it down, then maybe creating a strategy to execute that plan. That's great stuff. You're creating a map basically. A process is a little bit different. A process is more of a commitment in a way that you conduct yourself and you keep yourself in check and you make sure that everything you do falls beneath the virtues of your process. So when you talk about how do we see this, and it is lofty when you think about saying we're not just going to sell t-shirts, we're going to try and really create this camaraderie and this connection and this community that you get excited when you see somebody coming at you at the gym or in the mall or out in the street in the park wearing a Brothers in Iron thing, and you're going to go up and bump them and brother. So we want you to recognize in other people that might not be in your circle what it is that the world recognizes in you. And you don't have to be the biggest, it's not for, you don't have to be a competitive bodybuilder to be a Brother in Iron, it's the metal that makes up the man. And to recognize that in somebody else is going to be really what we're looking to do, and to bring those people together. We want to put on a mentoring piece of this, an accountability piece of this. We're going to, we hope to develop an app that's going to have workouts and nutrition, different Brothers in Iron, giving testimonial, opening up what they're doing to the broad spectrum. But to your point, boiling it down, how do you do that? You don't do it with, ambiguous, manufactured, benign, generic shit. You do it with stuff that's built from a story. Every thread of Brothers in Iron is being purposefully and deliberately put together to create a tapestry that we want to cloak our community in. And that's a lofty goal. We're putting together the right pieces of the puzzle, and we're doing it in a way that we're not trying to get out. I mean, we could have been out 3 months ago if we wanted to, but it's not right. It's not ripened yet. So, there's investment here. There's thousands of hours. There's dollars. There's heart, soul. We already talked about Mikey's schedule. We were very, very booked up people. So of course we want to let's push it out so we can bring it back in. But that wouldn't be true to what we're looking to create. So we hope that we can create all the things that we're looking to create off of the pillars of our story.
Trust in the process, being patient, good things come to those who wait. We're not just trying to throw this out there and get our money, whatever. That doesn't really mean anything to us. We actually want to develop a strong foundation brand that, will change lives, impact people for the better. And that's our mission, as Brothers in Iron.
I think we relate to that too with what we're building with Micheal Up. Because you want to talk about how we've kind of learned what Micheal Up means, as we've been creating this project.
Yeah, so I had a friend that kind of approached me with this idea originally, and he wanted to start a podcast with me, and I said, sure, we'll kind of just see where it goes. And originally we kind of thought that it was going to be a little pet project and just something we worked on the side. And then we originally honestly hired Wags to be the production guy, and then one thing led to another, and now Wags and I are the partners and on it together. But our other partner was the first one who kind of came up with the name Micheal Up, and you just kind of, ask him, how you doing? Oh, I'm just getting my nickel up. I'm just trying to make a couple of bucks. So in the beginning, we wanted to have on, strictly entrepreneurs who were, making money and were, successful in their business. And yeah, that's great. And if your goal is to, escape the 9-to-5, escape the rat race, and then just, make money in your business, good for you. But we've had so many other people on here who want to achieve more in life than making money, and they're successful in their own way. So that's kind of what we've evolved Micheal Up into meaning. If you're getting your nickel up, it means you're, nickeling up your success in whatever it may be. We've had, yoga teachers on here. We've had, personal trainers. We've had everybody, a wide range of people, and everybody's successful in their own way. And we really just want, people who are doing cool shit. And everybody nowadays has a clothing brand, and it's, so diluted in such a competitive industry. And I think that's what's really going to set you guys ahead, is the fact that, you're kind of building a story behind it, and you're building a brand that's, bigger than yourselves. So
Yeah, you're in it for the right reasons too, I think.
Yeah, like he said, there's all these other brands, like million fitness brands. Like me and Brian talk about this all the time. What differentiates us from these other brands is the story behind the brand, behind the shirt. Like we are who we are, and this is who we are. We're not just pushing out clothes that we think look good and people are gonna buy. We're doing like hand material stuff. Like this shirt, the stitching, everything's detailed. I mean, Brian could talk about that as well. It's different than these highline major lifting clothes. It's all thought out. Mission behind it, everything.
Brian, as somebody who's been who's worked with a lot of brands over his career, are there any that you've kind of drawn inspiration from when it comes to Brothers in Iron?
Not necessarily. So I draw inspiration from tons of different sources. I've worked for everybody. I've done work for you name it. I've done it for them. Some of the best stuff that I did was, believe it or not, early on, that Dream Team stuff, because the responsibility to make sure this is on the global stage, right? You're doing stuff that Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, Magic Johnson are featured on. You can't fuck that up. You can't go and half step into that. So that type of compass and barometer that you set at the onset of creating anything, you guys know, and look around, look at what you've put into this. That's why it resonates and shows differently. That barometer and those parameters, the virtues of what you're going to create are what's going to dictate what comes out. Going on and getting a direct-to-film slapped-on T-shirt that's stiff and you wash it and you're wearing it and stick it to your chest because it weighs 40 pounds. And if, luckily if somebody, decides to come out blasting, it's not going to pierce the armor, you're going to survive. But that stuff's not a brand. And when people say, I've got a clothing brand, not to be a snob, a brand snob, but what's your brand? Oh, well, I put my name on these shirts and I sell them on my Instagram. Okay, that's really not a brand. You've got merchandise that's promoting, what you're doing. God bless you. I'm happy for you. A clothing company and a clothing brand and a lifestyle apparel brand has to meet a criteria. It can't just be your name put on a few different colored shirts and sent out to the people that like watching you chase a rooster around your backyard when you play the kazoo on TikTok. And God bless you if you do that. And you're making a lot of money doing it. But you don't have a clothing brand. You have a merchandise line. So I take that seriously. I take that stuff very, very seriously. It's, again, we'll go back to the North End. We're gonna go eat after this because if you notice, there's a trend of getting hungry.
Chicken pot.
So you walk in the back and that sauce has been simmering for 10 hours. The ragu that you buy for $3, that's a different product. It's a different product.
Is it?
It's
it is
different. It's a little different.
Oh, okay.
It's different. It's a different product. But the
I thought it was all frozen.
It's if you like it, beautiful, but it's not the same. The ragu in the can, you can put it on some macaroni and eat it. It's fine. But it's not the same. It's not homemade pasta. It's not tomatoes that you get from Alba's in the North End because he gets them in fresh every morning. It's not chopping everything by hand. It's not using your grandfather's knife. It has no connection. So the output is generic. It's pedestrian. So a brand is a promise that a company makes to its consumer base. A clothing brand needs to stand up on those values and virtues that it is developed. It's not just produced. So there is a big difference. There's a big difference. And hopefully it shows, and I feel that, we've got the right team in place. Our printer, I've been working for decades with Mark Lane at Coed Sportswear. You guys familiar with Coed Naked? It was an enormous brand in the 90s. It was Coed Naked everything. Lacrosse. And, Mark wrote a book. Mark's been to the White House as one of the most successful small businesses in the Clinton administration. So Mark's up in New Hampshire, and he's producing for us. So we literally have, and he does stuff for Reebok, Adidas, Puma. He does everything that you see out in the stores. They do exemplary quality. So, this is a project that normally they wouldn't touch, but we have a great relationship steeped in history and respect, and they're producing for us. So they're a great partner for us. So the belief that they have by looking at this stuff is, it's just one of those litmus tests that, all right, so they want to, they're going to do this for us. And we're meeting some great people along the way.
And like Mark does, like, he's super experienced. He does a lot of work with influencers like Two Turn Tony. They do a lot of work with him. So he knows the market, like he knows the game. And Mark and his son Eric are helping us out with that. All highest quality manufactured stuff, United States, embroidered, printed, everying. So they do
some really
good job.
interesting, different stuff we're going to have also. Using different techniques and different substrates, gels, tone on tone stuff. So it's going to come together as
leather patches.
Yeah, we've got some really nice stuff with different substrates and different really interesting retail ready, fashion forward stuff. Meaning, the same type of applications that Polo and Gucci are using, not just not that heat transfer, but what's interesting as we look at this materialize are the different silos and the different kind of sub categories that we're going to get into. Brother in Iron can be guys that are triathletes. They're a lot different than us.
It could be
but
anybody.
It can truly be anybody. So we're going to look for these ambassadors that are going to, help drive our brand, and who we're going to help with sponsorship in each of these silos. You could be a competitive bull rider and be a Brother in Iron. It's limitless. And that's why I think it's so important. And that's why I feel like we're truly blessed that the biggest asset that we have in this company today, and that no matter how much success hopefully we achieve, is the heart of the company. And that's a respect for one another, like-mindedness, and a vision to do more than just sell t-shirts. If we can create a Brothers in Iron with Mikey being in Colombia playing football and hopefully taking that to the league is the plan, then you've got a grand audience that you can affect change, that we could initiate, implement, and execute a Brothers in Iron mentoring program. And it could be a weightlifter that's trying to help out little kids that are 10th, 12th grade looking to get into bodybuilding, do it the right way, steer clear from these pitfalls and so on and so forth. The football guys, that's already, they're already big into philanthropy and public outreach. But if we can create this Brothers in Iron platform that they're able to affect and influence positively, kids who are looking to grow up a different way. So we've got a true compassion for people who are looking to nickel up, not just in their pocket, but in their heart, fulfill mind, body, and spirit. And we want to do the right thing by this brand and by the people that we bring into the brand.
Yeah,
so
100%. Just, when people say, like, what are your goals? What do you want to do? As they're like, how do you want to better yourself? The only answer I could think of is I just want to be better. That's it. Like, in everything in my life, in every aspect of my life, I just want to be better. I want to do better. I want to be able to move in a positive direction in some sort of aspect of my life every single day. And that's what we plan to do with this brand. I think that's very important, having that direction, what you want to do. Like, we read Stoics, like, we're really big into Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius, Socrates.
I have meditations and
you got meditations. It's a great book.
It's a great book.
I'm on my 7th read of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been. It's about 20 years that I've been. I grew up a devout Catholic, and I still hold true to my spirituality. But everyday life, I've got a short wick at some. Is the more stuff you take on, the higher you elevate up into the responsibility ladder. Working with big brands and stuff like that, having to deal with a lot of deadlines and people. So I found myself being a little bit abrupt at times, and I discovered philosophy. And I remember I started to read Meditations in college, and I finished it, and it truly changed my outlook on so many different things, and it's helped me to. I'd like to think I always had those virtues and I always had those values, and it was just part of my person. But what I didn't have was that one big piece, and that is keeping your ego in check and not being prideful. And not, I don't mean walking around pounding my chest like, you know, an asshole, but the ego of yourself, to hold yourself in a position where you're suffering in your mind because of something that somebody might think or say or do. Once I kind of concluded that, shit, this is like this is a superpower if you can do this. It opened up a whole nother realm of being able to produce the way I like to produce, but also affect and influence in a way that I've always mentored people. I've always had teams that worked with and for me, but it was a byproduct of business, right? So I'm meeting you through business. Yeah, if I can offer you a couple of words of wisdom or give you, help you grow from my experiences, I'll do so. But it was never a passion because you had so much business to do. But I think that kind of stoic viewpoint on things keeps you in check and makes sure that you're kind of staying within those parameters. And it's great that your brother's really into it too.
Yeah, my brother's really
right
into
when we
it.
met, I think you saw something that I had of stoicism.
Marcus Aurelius, all the books and stuff.
Like he told me about his brother. And
and like Marcus Aurelius says, like, when you're on a boat, you need to know which way you're going so you know which way to put your sails so the wind can take you in that direction, which like we try to apply to this brand. We have like the sense of direction that we're moving towards and making an effort going in that direction.
Yeah, I think that to me what just really stands out from this conversation and kind of wrapping it up here too is just like the balance of like your experience throughout time and your seasoned just like design and craftsmanship and everything you're going to take from your life and apply to this, and then being in this moment in now 2024, which is crazy, and just having good timing for this to be to grow and to ultimately both of you guys get your nickel up. I think that's like amazing, and so I think we're excited to watch it grow, and we thank you guys for coming in here.
Absolute pleasure meeting you both. And
it's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Hopefully we'll make a date and see each other again.
Absolutely.
More interesting
100%.
stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
we always say that when we first start, this is how many episodes are we?
20. We filmed 10 episodes in December.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Good for you guys. You guys are doing great.
So
This
back
is
like
20 something. Yeah.
20 episodes ago, we were saying, it's going to be cool that, in 6 months from now, we'll get you on again. We can kind of reevaluate, where you're at. And now we're at the point where we've grown and the people we've had on, they've grown in their careers as well. So, 6 months from now, a year from now, hopefully we're a lot bigger. We'd also love to have you guys on a second time and kind of reevaluate compared to where you are, the first week of January. So, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you guys so much.
Of course.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for having us.